So it was an interchangeable management solutions and how they could become your best territory with your day. So, this is kind of like our boring part. Offensive security engineers with 9 years of IT experience. The last 6 have been basically just security operations, and I recently became an offensive security engineer. Bachelor's degree in computer systems engineering, security operations, and incident detection. I always tell people that teamers are the unsung heroes of the industry because while a pen tester can go home and do whatever assessment they're working on, when it comes to blue teamers, you don't really always get to work in that spot. Like criminals and attackers don't really work on a schedule. So that's something interesting to consider, I guess. And then the alphabet too: CCNA, KFC, SSD, whatever. My favorite color is pink. When I was a kid, I was very pink. It just looks so weird. Anyway, I remember my parents taking me to a flea market once, and I saw an old record, and I was really petrified when I saw it for the first time. So, before we start, a couple things to take in consideration. This is going to be a Windows-based environment discussion. I'm not saying that this type of solutions cannot be deployed in Linux. It is possible to do it. I've personally never seen it, and I've never seen anybody do it. But like they say, just because you've never seen something doesn't mean it doesn't exist. PAM stands for Privileged Account Management Solution. And I'm going to be referring as secrets as anything that is a privileged credential, API keys, SSH, credentials, tokens, anything that would grant you privileged access, I'm going to refer to it as a secret. The book of sound. So I normally like to start my presentations with kind of like a short random story, and this is kind of going to be the case. And it's something we were talking about yesterday. In IT, you kind of get crucified if you like something else or you like reading stuff outside of IT. This is nothing to do with it. I have a point, and I'll get to it, I promise. So, in 1975, Argentine writer Jorge Luis Borges published a compilation of short stories with his main story titled The Book of Sound. So, it's about a book collector who's chilling at home and gets a knock on his door from a traveling salesman offering him his book. What made it so special was that, just like the sun in the desert, it didn't have a beginning or an end. So he started to get so addicted to it and so passionate about it. The book itself was very complex. The page numbers didn't follow any sequence, and it was very complex because it was written in a language that he couldn't understand. So he decided to get rid of it and say, I'm going to put it away because could cause a lot of distress. So the takeaways of the story is the complexity of the book, how it needed to be treated with caution, and how it needed to be safeguarded, which is exactly how we would treat a privileged account. Now, we're going to get to what's a PAM. So, a lot of people use privileged access management and privileged account management solutions as interchangeable terms, and they're not the same. They're completely different things. So, a privileged access management solution is a security mechanism that enables organizations to manage and keep an eye on the behavior of privileged users. So, a PAM is a subcomponent of privileged access management. So now, what is a privileged account management solution? This is a solution that focuses specifically on managing accounts with elevated access. So this application administrates and audits accounts and data accessed by privileged users. But what does this even mean? Well, there are certain accounts that need special permissions for us to perform certain tasks. For example, application deployment, or server configuration, server patching, network configuration, database management. So anything that could get us to potentially break something or compromise sensitive information. Those are the kind of accounts that we want to be a little bit extra careful with. So, the road to success starts with STDs. And as everybody knows, STD stands for Skill Set Tools and Data. So, for skills, my old boss used to say that one good sysadmin is worth 100 imperfect professionals. And I have mixed feelings about that because I feel like it's important to have a good understanding of IT security and how this type of applications could potentially be misused and what would happen if they got compromised. As for tools, we would need backups, we would need databases as indication mechanisms if we want to integrate it with our environment. We would need directory services put in place, and we would also need network segmentation. And the questions that I've had people ask me in the past is, why do I need network segmentation for this type of applications? Well, in the event that, you got compromised, you want to make it a little bit trickier for the attacker to get there. I mean, this is basically what's holding all of your important secrets. So, if they're already in, you might as well make it a little bit more challenging. As for data, we would need our logs, we would need an incident response mechanism in place, an approval workflow, and basically we would need to get, this is very important and it's something that a lot of the times it gets ignored, we would need a list of our most critical applications and the accounts associated with them. I have a story to share later. Core components. So the core components of a PAM, that's going to be your web server. So that's our user interface, basically. Everything that we can poke around, click on, just mess with, or admin panel, or folders, or settings, anything that we can poke around with, that's going to be your web server. As for distributed engine, that's going to be the service that does all the dirty work. And by dirty work, I mean, for example, password changes, password rotations, heartbeats, account synchronization, anything that connects us to our directory services, that's what our distributed engine is going to be doing. Database is going to be storing all the secrets information. What kind of information would it store? Well, the name of the accounts, the person who added it, the date that it was added. We might even get to see or password, but obviously we're not going to see it in plain text. We're going to see a hash version of it. And so for those people who are really, really dedicated to it, there's going to be a talk regarding passwords later today, so you don't want to miss that. Another core component is Active Directory. So that's for group and user synchronization. So that's going to be your directory services. More core components. So we have sites. Each engine is normally assigned to a single site. So think of a site as a bucket of work items. For example, let's say Victoria's Secret. Well, Victoria's Secret has offices in London. They have offices in New York. They have something in Shanghai. Just everywhere. So each one of these locations would have a different site. Right? So if a site goes down, they can still rely on other ones. So each one of them is going to be assigning work items. Site connector, this is going to be the service that holds the work items for determined sites. And each one of them is going to have a distributed engine. On-prem versus cloud. And this is a discussion that we normally see everywhere, regardless of what type of solution we're working with. I've had people ask me in the past, well, when it comes to a PAM, what should I do? Should I stay on-prem or should I go cloud? The answer is it really depends. It depends on a lot. It depends on your budget, depends on your organization, depends on your company, depends on how you see the company 5 years from now. So everything else can be agreed that what a user, you're responsible for, or an administrator is responsible for if you deploy an application on-prem. And let me tell y'all, updating a PAM on-prem, you learn to love energy drinks. So, you really do. So, it's not just, okay, I'm going to go on the server and I'm going to run a patch and we're all about each other. Oh, no. Like, you basically have to create a backup of your database. You have to basically just put your server on maintenance mode and make sure that all the secrets are synchronizing correctly. You also have to create a backup of your web server as well. So basically it's just taking care of each one of your core components and making sure that they're all orchestrating their work correctly. And, like, different versus going on cloud, you don't get to do anything other than keeping your distributed engine alive. And like I mentioned before, a distributed engine is going to be the server that is going to be connecting your web application with your directory services. So unless you really, really trust your vendor and you really know what they're doing, you feel very comfortable with other people crossing into your environment, 99% of the time you're going to need to have an on-prem server acting as your distributed. Additional features. What kind of cool stuff can we do? And this is something that I've seen in the past, and I've seen it on Twitter, and I'm just like, no, I'm not going to say anything, because as we all know, Twitter is the perfect place to have a different opinion. People saying, okay, PAMs are just like a glorified password vault. And I'm like, oh, no, that's not how it works. I'm a strong believer that if you're paying for something, you got to get more back for your buck. So, make the best out of it. So, other than storing passwords, there are more stuff that we can do. So, discovery. And what kind of stuff that we can we discover? We can discover, for example, domain accounts, service accounts, and the services are associated with, just assets within our domain. For example, I was talking to a friend a couple months ago, and he was telling me, well, I was given, hey, here's some budget, build yourself. And he was like, okay, fine, I'm going to work on that, and I'm looking for an asset management solution. But in the meantime, I'm just going to make use of my discovery feature that my PAM is giving me, and what my DVR is telling me, and get me some visibility. It's not ideal, but it's better than having nothing. I mean, it's telling me my assets, it's telling me my operating system, what's about to be, like, end of life cycle. So I still get to see the visibility of what's in my network. Heartbeat. So think of a heartbeat as a mechanism for a device to communicate with our directory services. Like, hey, I'm going to poke you. Are you alive? Yes. Okay, that's good. So this is a way to verify that a domain account is still valid. Reporting. So there's 3 ways to do this. So what I like to call the ugly way, the pretty way, and the not so pretty way. So the best way to do this is integrating this type of solutions with your SIM, and that gives you a little bit more option to customize. Like if the report you're trying to create doesn't have any particular fields, you could just get creative and play a little bit with regex and just kind of mess around, make it however you want it to be, right? That's if you integrate it with your SIM. Another thing is this type of solutions will only offer free CAD reports that you can download and just, it's going to let you see whatever you need to see, like last accounts created, who created those accounts, users that have been disabled, new users, and then if you really like being nerdy and geeky or whatever, you could go into your database servers and just build a SQL query and put whatever data you need. So that's another way to do this. Auditing. So this type of solutions are going to come with their own logs for you to look at and investigate. And like reviewing existing logs, that would pretty much, entail the auditing process. Another option that we have, or another cool, feature that we have is password generator. So instead of coming up with, passwords like SolarWinds 1, 2, 3, or okay, I'm going to come up with a complex password, you can just click a button and it's going to automatically generate a password for you, right? And if you're synchronizing your account with Active Directory or your directory services, you don't really have to worry about going in there and just changing it. You can just, change it from your path, and, that's it. Policies creation. So think of a policy as a set of rules that you can apply to multiple secrets in one single shot, right? And the most common policy creation that you're going to see is the one for account rotation. My personal opinion, my personal experience, this is the most powerful feature that you're going to find in a path, and it's also the most dangerous. You could really, really break something, and you could really, really make a lot of people upset when that happens. So, side story here, I used to work for a university last year, and I was working on a project where I had to create a rotation policy for all the existing service accounts, right? So using the discovery feature, I downloaded the accounts that I saw. I scheduled a meeting with our DevOps department, just kind of had a conversation with them. This is what we have. This account needs to get rotated. Are you guys okay with it? Sure, I'm cool with it. Fine. So I scheduled a rotation policy for all the secrets to get rotated Saturday at 2 a.m. Turns out that one of those secrets was a set of hard-coded credentials into a check-in system for a library for students to go in, right? So, end of the story. I rotated the secret. It was hard-coded. I broke the check-in system for the students to go into the library. So, whoopsie. So, anyway, we all learned from it. And I was lucky to work. It was the library system that I broke, and not the paper thing, because I would have been the most hated person. Well, another feature that we have is templates creation. So whenever you're storing a secret, you basically get to select and customize what fields you want to have whenever you're storing it. Here's an example. So I have the secret template name, the name pattern, description, if I want to put any additional notes, all history, which is going to let me see prior passwords. A lot of people don't like it and think it's a useless feature. I mean, it's there. Validate password requirements. Whenever you're storing a secret, you needed to indicate if your password needs to be a certain length. That's another option to have. So. And in here, I'm just kind of showing, this is in a more generic way, how folders and secrets would look like whenever you're storing something. So, this is just generic stuff. Roles and permissions. So, whenever you're granting access to somebody to your path, you're not just going to give them all the access that they can. You want to keep it the very bare minimum amount of permissions for them to perform what they need to do. No more and no less, right? So in here you get to be a little bit more granular. If you want this person to just have access to all the reading permissions, you can add that. If you want them to change or delete files, or you just don't want them to do anything other than, hey, these are the secrets that we have stored. You cannot see the password, you cannot see anything, just very basic permissions you can give it. Best practices. General best practices. Restrict personal privilege accounts to one per user. I really don't see any actual logical reasons for one user to have, hey, this is my admin account for me to update databases. This is my admin account for me to apply patches. This is my admin account for me to run stuff on my own computer. No. You just want to keep one per user. And you do not need to be sharing them either, so you want to keep one account per admin, like as in one individual one. Unless it's pretty much like a third-party vendor, you're running out of licenses, and you need to, share an account, that would make sense, but we pretty much want to stick to number creation to the point where if somebody's breaking something or performing some activity they shouldn't be doing, you want to be able to track that activity, one, to who it originally originated from. So. Keep an up-to-date list of all privileged accounts. Learn from my mistake, guys. Just don't start, rotating passwords and you don't know what you're changing. So you want to keep a list of who has access to what. Limit the scope of privileged accounts. Goes back to what I was mentioning. You want to give people the very bare minimum amount of permission for them to do what they need to do. Disable accounts that are not in use. If you're not using something, there's no need for you to keep it. Enforce a strong password policy and require MFA. So this is something we're going to see everywhere. And one thing that we need to keep in mind is MFA and the strong password policy, that's not a deal card. This is just like adding one more layer of protection, but there isn't such thing as, hey, this is unhackable, they cannot get us. No. You're just making it a little bit trickier for the attacker. The lane approach. And I like to call it the lane approach. It's log, audit, monitor, and evaluate. I normally like telling people that this type of solution, IT security solutions in general, but especially PAMs, are like skincare. For two reasons. Number one, just because something works for somebody or one of your friends doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to work for you. And two, as you get older, this stuff that you need changes. Your skin gets a little bit more mature, you need different stuff. That's the same thing that happens with your organization. You get more users, you need, to provide more assets, you're logging more stuff, so something to keep in mind. So think of logs as the kind of information that we need to have recorded from all of our applications. So in a PAM, the type of logs that we want to be looking at is going to be, their own application logs generated by the PAM itself and win event logs. Why do we need win event logs? Because we also want to, be able to analyze the health of the application itself. If a distributed engine dies, you want to be able to investigate what happened, right? If a password gets rotated, you want to be able to see if it gets changed, why it didn't get changed, what happened, who had access to it. So since everything is synchronizing with directory services, you want to keep your win event logs with you. Audit. So there's really not much of a point of keeping logs if you're not looking at them, right? So that's just kind of logging and auditing go together. For a monitor, there's two ways that you can do this. If you're integrating your PAM solution with your SIM, they're going to let you customize whatever alerts that you want. Plus, a PAM itself has event subscriptions, which basically what they do is they tell you whenever an admin is logging in, whenever a secret gets deleted, whenever you see something a little bit out of the ordinary, who is so-and-so, why did they just try to rotate 50 secrets? Or why are they copying and pasting stuff? So that's another option that you have. For evaluate, so it goes back to what I was mentioning. Okay, you have your logs, you audit and you monitor, but this is a whole rinse and repeat process, right? So you're not just going to keep with the logs that you have and just, hey, everybody's happy, I have this solution in place, I'm good to go. No. You want this to be a rinse and repeat and evaluate this whole entire process. At least, it really depends on each organization, but once every 6 months, that's just kind of the standard. Additional recommendations. So, maintain the most recent security updates in all the involved systems. Again, that doesn't just go for your web server, that's also for your distributed engine, that's also for your database. For example, let's just say there is a 0 day, and it doesn't affect my web server, but it affects the other servers that I have, it affects my database, it affects, something else. So that's why you want to keep every single system involved up to date and with the most recent security patches. Ensure the appropriate backups are in place. So a lot of people say, let's say I don't believe in backups. I don't believe in creating a manual backup of my database. That's fine. What you can do, which is not ideal but could also be done, you create a snapshot of your system, right? So you kind of work with your, like system administration department and revert to a prior version of the server in the event that something crashes and goes wrong. Well, you have that option to revert to a prior version. Maintain a good contact with your vendor. So this doesn't mean, okay, we're best friends and I'm going to go to his coffee game and he's going to send me, like green enchiladas on my birthday, yeah. So you'll just have to have that relationship built to where you have good communication and you know where they are, and given something were to happen, you have a point of contact. Consider commercial EDR tools. Again, this is going to be a defense in-depth approach, right? Your EDR isn't going to save the day, right? This is a combined effort. Document account management practices. So if somebody is requesting access to your path, just because you can ask for something doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get it, right? You have to have a process in place. So have this person, for example, create a ticket, and, okay, a ticket was created, now we have something recorded, and, we have a paper trail that this request was put in place. Okay, we assign it to all of the involved parties. Which department is involved? Why are they trying to access this? Do we have approval? Yes, no, and, at least you have something to go back to. Enable an event notification. So, again, this is a combined effort between your PAM and your win event logs. So, if you see some suspicious activity or something a little bit out of the ordinary, it could be nothing, but at least you got notified. And then, with your logs and, information that got logged in the past, you can, have a really good visibility and start an investigation. Understand service level agreements. So by SLAs, we mean to say who is responsible for what. Where do we draw the line? Okay, I'm on-prem. What is my vendor responsible for versus what am I supposed to be doing? Right? So it's just basically having a clear idea of what you're supposed to do versus what your vendor is supposed to be responsible for. Ensure change management process is in place. So by change management, for example, how do we make changes in here, right? So you want to make sure that whenever a change gets made, this gets communicated to the users, that changes can be rolled back, that these changes are tested, and you never, ever, ever, under any circumstance, you want to test in production. Right? That this gets previously approved by all the involved parties. And again, important that this is something that could be rolled back to. Right? It goes back to what I was saying. Always keep a good backup of your servers. Uber hack. I'll never forget this because I was on PTO when this happened, and I had just, I had done the gym, came back, took a shower, then was going to go take a nap. Oh my gosh, I had people just blowing up my phone, just like, hey, did you see this? So, I didn't work for the vendor that was involved, but I was doing a lot of work with them. So this is a really interesting approach. Attack narrative. So, the attacker targets an individual. So, what happened was, a consultant is always a consultant. This is always a consultant. Got a phishing text message, right? They got a phishing text message and something from somebody pretending to be from IT. It's like, hey, your password is about to expire. Click here if you want to reset it. So the consultant clicks on the link and takes him to a fake portal, enter your username and password, and that's how the attacker gained access via social engineering. With those obtained credentials, the attacker logged into the corporate VPN. So it's like, okay, yes, I have my password, so VPN access. The attacker found a network share, so he was just kind of looking around, trying to find something interesting and what he could do with it. The network share contained a PowerShell script, and the script contained credentials for an admin user in Secret Server. goes back to what I was saying before. Always, always, always be very careful with hard-coded credentials. So, I mean, in my case, I wrote the library system. These people, a couple lines. So the script contains credentials for an admin user in secret server. So this is the part that triggers me the most. People use the word account and user interchangeably. This was not an account. This was an actual user. So there was an actual user's credentials hard-coded into the script. Not a service account. They could have made it a service account and, limit the target of the attack. Did not do that. Things to consider. And by things to consider are, everybody feels like, oh, okay, if you have done this, you would have never gotten hacked, and, let me push the solution for you, and you're not going to get hacked. No, we're really not